The project that I'm running, A Day in the Digital Lives of Children aged 0 to 3, is a research project, a strand of research within the Working Group 1, Digital Literacies in Homes and Communities of the DITL programme. We're adapting a methodology that I originally founded with Gillen Cameron about 15 years ago to study aspects of young children's lives. The project has 3 stages. The first one, which is quite difficult and challenging, is to recruit participants and to work with them so that they genuinely participate in the methods of the project and get involved. So we have to find somebody with a child aged under 3 who's interested in working with us. We have to discuss the different implications of working with us. It is relatively invasive of the family for one whole day. And in the first meeting, we have an interview. And we also do some pilot videoing. So we video the family for an hour. And then after that, we have a discussion. And if they're ready to go ahead with the main part of the study, then we return on another day that's been negotiated. And we spend a whole day, that's at least 6 hours, but very often far more, can be up to 13 hours or something like that, with the child and the family. We have 2 researchers there. One videos the child and the other one writes field notes. Sometimes, of course, we can swap over roles. We don't video, of course, whenever the family don't wish, or such obvious occasions as when the child is sleeping or going to the bathroom or things like that. But in general, we try to capture everything that the child is doing during the day. So we have an entire day's filming, and then as researchers we go away, we look through the data and so forth, spend a lot of time looking at it, and what we do is then make a compilation video, very typically of, for example, 6 incidents during the day that we think are particularly interesting. Some of them will of course involve digital technologies, but not all of them, because we want to investigate the child's life as a whole, as it were, as it was revealed during that day. So we make a compilation video that's about half an hour long. In the third stage of the research, we take that video to the family, and this is actually an iterative stage of the research. So we record that discussion. So we show the video to the family, we obviously stop it in between the different incidents, and we discuss what they see, their reflections on the different kind of events that we're looking at, their attitudes and values of technology and so forth. They also inevitably reflect on how the child has changed in the few weeks or months since the original day data was collected. We have then a kind of other instruments such as an inventory of the digital devices and other kinds of things that were present during the day that we complete as researchers. And then this we use as one particular case study, one family. In the project, we've worked so far in 6 different countries with 11 families, but it is a project that has a tendency to grow, and I'm really glad to say that other researchers are interested in joining us even now at this stage. The research linked originally to a very sociocultural framing. When I was first working with Gillen Cameron more than 15 years ago, we were very keen to capture qualitative case studies that didn't just deal with what parents said their attitudes were and what their children did, but that worked with them to actually find something about the performance of their values. We made it very clear from the beginning that it was a participatory research study. We were at that stage working with resilient children aged 2.5, and I think it still is a kind of positively generative study. We value learning about parents' practices and learning more about what goes on in families and how children are authentically in their home environments actually interacting with the environment with them, including children, including adults, I should say, and siblings and any other family members or other people they encounter during their day. It's important, though, that although it began with very clearly a sociocultural orientation, that gave it a kind of adaptability that's been really noteworthy as things have carried on. So this is an adaptability in terms of topics that we can study. So, for example, when we originally designed the study, we never thought that we'd analyse all the data for musicality or for eating, but those are just two of the topics that we've explored. We've also found that owing to its adaptability, it can be used for various lenses, as it were. So I'm now, for example, working with a lot of media and communication scholars who adopt particular lenses. I've also become interested myself in more socio-materialist theoretical approaches, and I think I'm learning to pay more attention to details of settings, to artifacts that the children are working with or playing with, and in general, I think that the flexibility of the empirical method does lend itself to a qualitative approach that is very far away from any kind of experimental approaches, that is definitely interpretive. The methods, people sometimes think that because we're in the house all day, we'll get a very artificial picture of what the child is doing. Now, to some extent, of course, this is true. If you have a researcher there, the researcher is always present. The little child, for example, will spend some time interacting with the researcher. But I think that research is always impacted by the research method. It's important to reflect on it, it's important to think about it, but nevertheless, we see a lot of what I could kind of call performance of values, if you like, in front of the camera. And over the course of a day, families do get used to us and certainly engage in diverse activities. What it doesn't permit, the most obvious perhaps issue that it doesn't seem to permit is longitudinality, because of the fact it's focused on a day. However, I found that there is an element of that in the sense that during the iterative stage, the parents and other members of the family always offer reflections on how the child has changed during the last weeks or months. So it's true that it's not a truly longitudinal study, it's rather more intensive than that, but I think it has enabled us in the past and is enabling in this current project us to really capture something of the richness and diversity of young children's practices, including the digital technologies. The project, A Day in the Digital Lives of Children 0 to 3, is demanding. It is a demanding research approach. It means that you have to kind of work quite hard. However, it is adaptable in many ways to people's settings. So I'm certainly very keen for any researchers interested to contact me. We also have, of course, lots of publications. We have a Day in the Life web page hosted at Lancaster University, which gives details of many different directions and projects that the original method has led to internationally. There have now been literally hundreds of publications if you count conference papers, but I'm always very happy to talk to any researcher who's interested in investigating the methodology and perhaps adopting it for themselves.